you guys, welcome back to the channel. And it was a crazy yet interesting reunion part one. And we're talking about Ready to Love season 6, episode 13. This is the first of two parts of this whole thing that's going down as we have just completed the season. So before we jump into this and unpack everything that happened, if you are new here, hit that subscribe button, turn on your notifications. If you like the video, smash the like button and drop a comment down in the comment section below. So there is some things, without further ado, that we need to address. Um, there was this whole dramatic thing between Eric addressing the Dakia situation, and then we also had Donovan's drama with Sabrina, Laverne, and then this whole thing with, whether or not whether our final couples were still together. And I know we'll get a lot more of that in, the reunion part two. But let's talk about what happened in this episode. So we're gonna first start talking about this whole thing with Donovan, Carmen, and Ace. So unfortunately, as we remember, after Laverne left and Ace was self-eliminated, things didn't progress to a relationship while the two of them did talk a little while after they left. Now, as noted, when he was eliminated, Laverne wasn't ready to love, according to, because I think Carmen was the one that had the conversation with him. And they gave us that whole recap of that explosion. Um, Now it came back to, because a lot of us wondered whether or not he and Ace connected outside of the show, since he was eliminated and she self-eliminated. And she did admit that she had to walk away from the process. One thing I will say about Ace, I love her diplomacy in this whole thing. So, in Ace's words, she wanted more of a substantial relationship outside of the show. Now, it looks like she blocked him on social media. Now, one thing I will say about her diplomacy, she didn't go into specifics, because a lot of times what we see, what happens is there's this whole expose and he did this and he did that and drag him through all of this. But she was like, she didn't go into details. But it does seem clear that, she wasn't really ready for the idea of even continuing to see if something was going to be there. Now, Tommy did ask, if she would be open to it, you know, and she said it remains to be seen. I honestly was hoping, there was, that they could have made something happen, but it just wasn't in the cards for these two. Is it in the cards for them after the season? I don't think so. I honestly think that they move separately. And I went back to check on IG because that's where everybody is. I mean, I think there are a couple folks that do go to the Facebook groups, but I usually see most of them on Instagram and some of them on TikTok too. And it doesn't look like at this point, because I think the reunion had to be maybe filmed maybe a couple months ago or so, but it doesn't look like they follow each other even now. So whatever happened after the reunion, it probably stayed in the same position with those two. But I will say what we did find in regards to Donovan and Carmen, they are still going strong. And so much so, because here's the thing, I know in my last recap, I wasn't too sure. And that's why I always say I like to see the people outside of the cameras, because they have been pretty much in so many different places with each other. I mean, they've been out with a couple of drinks with each other. They've been at each other's home. I seen them playing with the dogs. I mean, they all booed up and hugged up. So, I don't care. Some people like, I don't buy it. Well, like I told one person on social media, you might not buy it, but obviously they are sold on each other. And that's all I care about. If it works for them, And even if it works for a shorter period of time, just say 6, 8, 9, 10 months, whatever, it didn't work, it just didn't work. If they decide to take it for the long haul, and like she says, I's married now with the whole Sugar Avery thing from Color Purple, hey, so be it. But either way, I'm always about romance. I'm always about love, black love, whatever love it is, I'm rooting for it. So I'm not going to take anything away from those two. But, because we always talk about wanting representation, right? And we want to see more black love and black couples and things like that. And then when we get it, we dissect it and discredit it and shame tactic and all types of things. I'm like, my God. And even one of our favorite couples, which we'll talk about later, Joy and Clifton, people are even dissecting that too and trying to find fault with Joy. Come on, you guys. Let them do them. If anything comes out, fine. If not, and they ride off into the sunset with a 30-year marriage, I'm okay with that. Let's just see what they're going to do. But I'm rooting for Carmen. Right now, we're talking about Carmen and Donovan. They're still going strong, even post reunion so far. I'm rooting for them. All right, so let's talk about this Eric situation with Takia, Eric, and Paul. So, Eric, as you guys remember, self eliminated. And the reason behind it, they kind of wanted to dissect it and explore it a little bit. Now, there's still a lot of gray areas and vagueness here, but I guess the gist of it is that Eric, it seems, touched Takia inappropriately in public. And she was very embarrassed about it. She felt what she felt in the moment. And Eric misread where they were at the situation as a whole. Now, it was interesting. He apologized for it, and he even admitted, because there's this whole thing about her saying apologizing about it now, and then he said, "Well, I did apologize. What do you mean now?" He apologized, I guess, through a text message. She admitted that she got that apology. I'm assuming they moved on, but obviously, just like regular producers at any of these shows, they wanted to re-unearth the drama for pettiness. But anyway, let's keep going. Um, Now, as I said, he apologizes for it during the reunion, and then there was this whole backtracking moment. Um, I guess because he still has issues about what he said about the incident and what she said. Now, with that, the apology might have been said, like he said, he gave it to her early on, but the way that we saw it on the show, it was like he kept digging a new hole for himself, just getting out of one. He getting out of one hole, and then there was another. Then we see Dakia calls this witness and Paul to co-sign with her, calling him out after the actual incident happened. Which brings into question why Eric thought that this was a misunderstanding and all of this. But after a while, with it being clear, Eric might be apologizing for the sake of reputation, which I honestly think there were some apologies that was had during the season. Yes, the initial reaction that the Kia had, like, "Hey, you don't touch me like that." And there was an apology that obviously came in the form of a text message, and then he apologized again. It just unearthed this whole thing. It caused this whole confrontation. There was some expletives thrown around, and he is I think, DC chef for the stars or something, for the professionals or something like that. So I know a lot of that is because, see, here, the social media is a place of unforgiveness. You say or do the wrong thing, it takes years to repair your reputation. So I think part of his reaction in this moment, I think he was obviously apologizing for what happened. But at the same time, I think he also wanted to make sure he do damage control in regards to his whole livelihood. Because, I mean, honestly, if something like that came out, it could affect his livelihood. Yeah. So, I mean, at this point, Tommy kind of sees where it's going. the segment gets shut down, and they moved away from it. So I'm hoping they actually made peace with this, and that he realized what happened. She accepted whatever apology, hopefully sincere, and they move on from this because this thing could turn into a whole mess. But who knows? We'll probably see more about it next week. All right, so there was a lot of other stuff going on with some of these other folks. And we're talking about the many things that happened that circle around, I guess, Sabrina, when it came to Tori, Demetrius, Donovan, Sabrina, as I said, Joy, and Laverne, Precious, Ace, and Tina. So, whether there was any intention or not, Sabrina kind of found herself in the middle or part of the majority of a lot of what happened in what we saw in this reunion part one. So, first, there's her journey, which included Demetrius, Donovan, and Troy. And she is pushed to address the whole nibbling thing that we saw with Demetrius's ear. And she noted that, that happened because while Troy was consistent at that point, Demetrius, I guess, stepped up 15 minutes before, and she wanted to reciprocate. Because I guess there was this conversation that, Demetrius had, like, look, I'm feeling you. I need you to meet my energy. What we doing? And so this was her way of trying to reciprocate that energy that was the conversation. I found something interesting that Tommy had said because he said to Sabrina, I mean, you didn't have weeks with Troy, but then 15 minutes with Demetrius. And I'm like, that was interesting. But yeah, she wanted to reciprocate that moment. And she added the only reason that that moment blew up as it did, or the way that it did, she said that was because of Joy was hyping it up before she picked Demetrius. And that little conversation back and forth, the cutting of each other off, and I guess the way it was is that Joy, I think it was trying to explain herself, and Sabrina was cutting her off, and Joy was like, "If I can get a word in edgewise." So it turned into a whole situation. Then there's the other situation with Donovan. Now, unlike Troy, it's shown that he didn't feel defeated after Demetrius got his ear nibbled on. But the more time he and Sabrina had spent together, the more she wondered if he was there to find love or just survive the process in general. So, in her mind, that's what made her feel that he wasn't ready to love. But then, to kind of add insult to injury, she talks about how a kiss they had, her and Donovan, is part of the reason she and Demetrius got to a rocky position. And for hearing about the kiss from Donovan and not from Sabrina, he got in his feelings about it, which led him to call his mom. And part of the reason Sabrina didn't want to meet the mom is because she didn't want to deal with, that whole conversation, aka they were at this rocky place at this point. All of this combined with saying that Donovan had an interest in Joy, which obviously we never got to see, and Joy from behind stage was looking like WTF. It led to Donovan following in kind of what Eric did by putting his stance out there. I mean, so much more. He referred to the girls as the Golden Girls. Um, but they definitely kind of put the kibosh on the whole conversation because it kind of fizzled out and it didn't escalate, which, I find that a little bit different this reunion than maybe the past couple because sometimes they let that stuff just boil over. It was crazy. But who knows? We got to see part two to see if anything happens there. Now, there also is something to be said about Sabrina's last encounter, which was with Laverne. He's recounting their whole thing with the plot to get him voted off the show. So Laverne is talking about how what Ace said, that Sabrina said, that Precious said, that Carmen said. And I'm like, he say, she say. Okay, this can get crazy because when you got all this people throwing in comments, who knows? Is instead of having his side, her side, and the truth, you got 4 or 5 different sides and then the truth. Um, and then there was this whole thing with Tina being involved, and the truth gets broken down. Now, what we find out, Tina wasn't actually involved. And secondly, Carmen seemed to really be, I don't know, the way it looked, there's this whole conspiracy or whatever against Laverne. Everyone else just didn't have a romantic connection. That's what it came down with. And, while apologies to Sabrina was done off camera, Precious was still hot as fish grease since no one has apologized to her about anything. So, yeah, that whole thing was crazy. Um, I, that whole he say she say stuff that kind of threw me a little bit because at this age group, these are not people that we would see on like Love Island or Temptation Island, where the age range or even The Bachelor, you're looking at people from 20 to maybe 30. These folks are like 35 to 50. I think Paul is the oldest person. I think he's like 52, maybe. I could be wrong. Paul, don't come for me. But I think he might be the oldest person on the show. So it was just interesting to kind of see how all that was going on at this stage in life. I'm 51. So I'm looking like, oh my God, this looked like some stuff that we would have probably saw 20, 30 years ago. But anyway, remember this is, you know, a, um, a reality TV show. So a lot of stuff is drummed up for drama. And yeah, so I don't know. I'm wondering what we're going to see next week. Is there going to be a situation like, because I'm watching a lot of different things on social media and look like maybe Joy is going to be dragged into some mess since she seems to have decent friendships with people who get put in the hot seat. This whole thing with addressing Demetrius, both the drama we saw with Precious, bringing up on the next episode preview because we kind of got a cliffhanger with there. I'm wondering if they're going to talk more with Tina about leaving the show without telling Tommy. Now, that a lot of people were pissed off about that. That Tina would just, kind of just ghost everybody. But there were some conversations off camera from, some interviews where and allegedly that she wasn't even asked to meet Tommy, had no idea about the conversation to meet up with him, but they created a scene where Tommy just showed up at the spot and she was never there. So I guess whatever way they wanted to frame it, it's going to get real interesting when all of this is over. So, like I say, I take everything what I see on the show with a grain of salt. I want to see these people outside of the show. I know I've heard some folks say, "Oh, what I see on the show, it is what it is. When the show is over, I'm done with these people. I don't want to know." But you're not getting a real view of everybody because what you see on the show and what they get off the show, you can tell, that stuff is edited or changed because the people are not who they're portrayed to be. So I would prefer to get the truth of people, not the behind the cameras edited view of people. That's just my take. To each his own. I will say in this particular, and I'm noticing a lot across social media and in general, what women would be calling male ego, these men are speaking up for themselves. They're not allowing their names to be tarnished. We saw that with Eric and Donovan. I'm not just going to let you railroad me with whatever you're going to say about me. These guys are standing up for themselves. Laverne is the same thing. Now, there was this whole thing about confidence versus arrogance. And here's the thing. You can feel however you want to feel about yourself. And I prefer men with confidence. That's just me, and I think a lot of women do. I don't know if people can handle it though. That's the thing. People say, oh, I want a strong, confident man. But when you're in the space with that type of individual, can you actually handle that? I mean, especially if you're the type of person who there's an ego going on yourself. So if you come in with some form of ego and then you think he has an ego, there's going to be a power struggle energy in there. So I kind of like letting people be who they are. It lets me see who you are, and if it's somebody that, hey, I can be cool with, or I'll just bid you adieu. It is what it is. No harm, no foul. I don't have to be mad at you. It's just that we don't connect, and I'm okay with that. And like Laverne says, he said, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I absolutely agree with that. I follow him on his lives. I mean, he hardly ever go live. He usually maybe team up with Paul on his lives, but the dude is hilarious. I like his workouts. He's himself, and I like people who are confident and comfortable in their own skin. So I don't have no problem with that. But like I said, I am noticing that men are not shutting up like folks want them to, and they're standing up for themselves. And there's been a lot of conversation across social media on different platforms, whether it's in the reality TV space or if it's in a relationship space, where you see a lot more people having videos and messages about men saying, you know what, we're tired of people, or folks or whoever, just telling us how to feel, speaking on our behalf, saying things that we don't agree with, and we don't have a say so. So I just want to put that out there. I definitely noticed that about yesterday's episode. These guys are speaking up for themselves. And Paul, the boy, I'm like, man, just speak that knowledge, Paul. He had some things that was awesome to say about who he was and what he saw about the process. I absolutely enjoyed that part. I'm glad to see Tommy back last season with season 5 in DC. We had Tanika close out the seasons with the reunion. Some people didn't like her. They wanted Tommy in. It is what it is. Like I say, I want to get through the season so I can see what folks are after the season. And right now I'm enjoying the romance between Clifton and Joy. People are calling her male energy. People are calling her a pick me. Let that girl is happy. She can sing her butt off. Clifton was right there. There was a video posted where she was actually doing a small concert, and I think in Mexico. The girl can sing her butt off, and she's confident with who she is. And she's good with the guys. She's comfortable around men, obviously. And to each his own. Most of my friends are male friends. I'm cool around guys. I'm okay with that. And I can have the conversations without it even going to a place of, anything more than platonic. I'm just cool like that with them. So, um, I hear what they have to say. I hear the conversations. And I'm happy to see that Joy and Clifton are moving forward. I'm also happy about Carmen and Donovan. They've been doing their things. I want to see where they go as well. So we'll have to continue to watch. I'm looking forward to reunion part 2 next week, and then we'll be done with the Potomac season. So I hope you enjoyed this reunion part 1 recap. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you in the next video. Bye.